Couple things today we're going to go through. I'm going to talk briefly about the Siacoin Hardfork. Some folks that have purchased like the Obelisk SC1, maybe on at least trying to get the SC2, and then may have not purchased the Bitmain equipment or any other ASICs, and what does it all mean? And anybody that's not following, that's in the mining scene, this is part of the risk in general with ASICs, and the reason why I don't really touch ASICs and why I tell you guys that, you know, everybody do their research and get into it or not. I had ASIC experience from 2012 through 2015, and bottom line, the risk versus the reward, and the fact that if the community as a whole really supports a decision to try to do a hard fork, and you've made an investment in it, you have a chance that you could get forked off of the whole point that you bought the ASIC for. And in this case, Blake 2B, the number 2 and then B is the algorithm that Siacoin uses, and there's been some discussion from the Siacoin folks that are the main core developers about performing a hard fork. I think it's all but done decision-wise, that they're going to go ahead and fork the network and do it in such a way that the Obelisk SC1 will still work on Siacoin even after the fork, which means a couple things. And I've seen some interesting crypto Twitter communications out there of like, well, how can SC1 still work if the Bitmain and the Anisilin ASICs cease to work? And when it comes down to it, guys, the folks that are implementing that hard fork, that have written the code, know their own hardware, or the hardware that they were at least partaking in helping to create. So they'll know the advantages of that hardware over obviously the Bitmain, because it's obviously not an open source piece of hardware. So the way they would tweak it, they probably had a poison pill built in the entire time in the concept, and it was part of their risk analysis of anybody. Now everything I'm saying right now is obviously speculation, but if I put my hardware engineering hat side on, if you're going to have a sizable investment in a piece of equipment, you are going to ensure in some capacity, if you can risk mitigate, that if you're ever going to have to take the action of hard forking, that you want to make sure that you're not killing your own, situation. Right, wrong, and now mind you, I'm not talking about any of the right, wrong, or indifferent, or they're trying to centralize the situation and they're wanting to have absolute control over it. That's all discussions we can absolutely have, right? Because the reality is if you're going to fork off your competition and then only you can serve up the hardware, you're essentially creating the mine and creating that you can only use those particular picks to mine in that, to partake in that. So, there's some obvious monopoly kind of, and I see some of the comments in the comments below, some questionable monopoly situation there. But it comes down to, if you believe in the Siacoin project and you're behind what they're doing and you're looking at the eventuality of distributed storage, but obviously if you're Bitmain and taking the chance, they're going to be a little salty for a bit. But that's also, again, the risk that they took when they're creating hardware. They did it with XMR, and I think it's a common thread here of what's going on. And if anything, I think the community in general, right, wrong, or indifferent, if you're on the Siacoin side or not, I have no dog in the fight. I don't have any Obelisk SC1. I mined some Siacoin when we could dual mine, but their decision making is what it is, and if they have the ability to hard fork that without any other decentralized consensus, it's what they have the choice to do. There's been an outpouring of anti-ASICs in general. And again, if you guys have seen this channel and seen my thread on it, I've never came out and just said ASICs are, the death of whatever. ASICs are just an eventuality if the price of said cryptocurrency reaches some critical mass at some point, that you're going to have an arms race on the hardware that's going to support the proof of work networks. It doesn't matter what it is. That's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter if it's XMR. It doesn't matter if it's X16R. It doesn't matter if it was Bitcoin. It's irrelevant to the crypto network. It's an eventuality of like evolution. But if a community development, if it's decentralized enough, make a choice that they want to have some more diversification from it, from at least to give everybody at least a running chance at buying computer graphics hardware. It's a different distribution model on that. Yes, you can have farms with hundreds of thousands of GPUs, absolutely, but you don't have massive scale in the amount of throughput that each of those GPUs have. It's not a 10-to-1 compared to current hardware. They, if anything, they're only incremental increases. And that's really the advantage of GPUs in general. So when you have a community that wants to support a GPU network, that's part of the rationale that's going in. That you will have some people that are going to centralize some of their hash power, but you're going to have this you're going to have a lot more adoption of people, one to many, and many to many in different groups, depending which cryptocurrencies they are, where you're going to have a lot more people being part of it. And if you can just see that based on graphics card sales and all the different participants that hit these various cloud networks of, sharing hash and paying for hash and or all the different individual miners that are hitting the pools out there. But interesting that they had this option back in April, I believe, when we covered this situation back in April, that Siacoin could have hard forked the situation when they found out Bitmain came out with an ASIC. And then was actually going to launch before their Obelisk, which they had made an investment in, and they made a decision not to at that time to fork. So seeing as this has been playing out over the last 6 months, it's interesting to see that now they're going to go ahead and hard fork it.